So I've been taking some first aid classes. My county, it turns out, offers some really good classes, and they start out with basic first aid, and they move on up, and it eventually gets into a wilderness responder class, which they start out free, but as you get farther along, they start costing a little bit of money. And I'm in the process of going through those classes, and I'm really excited about it, and I've been getting some really good training. And one of the things that been getting some training on is tourniquets. And you may be like me and own a few tourniquets and really not have that much experience with them. I got to tell you, when I was in the Marines, we didn't carry tourniquets. Matter of fact, the, I guess, popular belief back in the 80s and the 90s, before GWOT, the Global War on Terror, was that tourniquets used incorrectly were more dangerous than they were good. And while our corpsmen probably had them, we did not. We were not issued tourniquets. And I understand that really it was the war on terror, and beginning maybe with this Somalia, where tourniquets first started being developed for combat, and really were proven. And now everyone swears by tourniquets. And what I have here is a couple tourniquets. This is a North American Rescue, I guess, cat tourniquet. It's a G7, which is, I think, the newest version. And this is the one that is, considered to be the tourniquet and approved and everything like that by the TCCC, CCC, and all that. And this one here is a Recon Medical. And I got to tell you, there's plenty of videos out there with folks with way more medical training than I have, warning about not using legit tourniquets. Folks that warn about the Chinese knockoffs, how they're just not made strong and they'll break. And there's plenty of videos out there where they take these $5 tourniquets off Amazon and they make them fail and all this kind of stuff. But I humbly contend that the Recon Medical doesn't fall into that category. These tourniquets are 25, $30. They're very expensive, and they're super quality. Not knocking them at one bit. Like I said, I think four of them. But these tourniquets seem pretty good too, and they, just like the North American Rescue, come in, the different colors. I just happened to start buying orange because if you're not in a tactical situation, there's no reason not to have orange. And the idea of a bright, attention-getting tourniquet really makes a lot of sense. And even if you are in a tactical situation, and we'll get to that in a minute, if you have a pouch or some sort of container for them, then it doesn't really matter what color they are either. So, so I've kind of started buying orange, and they also make blue, which is a training. It's still a tourniquet, but they make blue for training. Now back to the Recon Medical. This is a company you can look up. I'm no way am I affiliated with them, but I've watched some videos, and I've decided that they look pretty good too. And so I've started buying some of theirs, and theirs are much cheaper. Theirs are about 15, $16. And you don't have to have 20 tourniquets, but it's probably a good idea to have more than one. I mean, if you are, God forbid, in a situation where you need a tourniquet, sure, it could be that you fell off a ladder and cut yourself, and you got some arterial bleed and you just need to use that one tourniquet. Great. But if it ends up being an active shooter or something goes wrong at a gun range, you very well likely may need more than one tourniquet. And if so, price does eventually come into play. And understand that most likely, if you ever have to use a tourniquet, you're not going to see that tourniquet again. I mean, if you put a tourniquet on somebody, you're not taking it off, and it's going to go with the person. And it's not like you can show up at the emergency room a day later and go through their garbage and find it. It's gone. So these are very much one-time use things, and I think you're supposed to, replace them every 2 or 5 years, depending on how you store them and stuff like that. But anyway, there's plenty of videos that can tell you much more about tourniquets by much more intelligent and trained people than myself. But anyway, I'm just saying that I started buying some of these Recon Medical because I have several kits and I need to fill those kits with enough tourniquets to make them worthwhile. I mean, I've decided to have a kit in every car. I've got a kit dedicated to go into the gun range, and then I've decided to, being a prepper, to start kind of building up a trauma kit, a big trauma kit. And if you're one of my five faithfuls, you've seen that. So having more than a couple tourniquets is a big deal to me. May not be to you, but it is to me. Now, I also wanted to talk about what I have found for tourniquet holders. And you can buy tourniquet holders out there, and they're kind of expensive. But what I have found is that the surplus 40 millimeter pyrotechnic pocket will work really good for a tourniquet. And also, these flashbang grenade holders work pretty good. Now, I got a couple of these recently, and you can see here that they come with this elastic band, and I cut the band off one of them to see if it fit a little better. And I've kind of decided that the band doesn't really hurt, so I'll probably leave them on. I may cut them off, I don't know. But either way, I found that both of these work really well for holding a tourniquet. There you can see I've got both the tourniquets in these pouches here, and they hold real well. Likewise, I've got both tourniquets in this 40 millimeter long, and it fits fine. Although I gotta say, the Velcro ones fit better because you don't have to make that snap work. And you can see I've had to push down some. But I'm not necessarily saying that you should carry your tourniquets in some sort of individual pouch. Putting them inside of a dedicated first aid kit IFAK is probably the best way to go. One thing that they did hit on in my class and that I had not really thought about was to not leave your tourniquet in the original wrapper. And matter of fact, that's what I'd been doing. But they told us that we should go ahead and unpackage our tourniquet, inspect it, and then rewrap it so that we had the biggest opening that we could to fit, say, our thigh, being the biggest extremity that we would use it on. And there's an illustration of that. So set up your tourniquet so that you could get that over your thigh if you needed to. It's ready to go. And then wrap it on itself, package on itself, so that that opening is maintained. So there you go. That tourniquet is now loosely wrapped so that if I pull it apart, the Velcro comes apart from itself, and I have that original size loop ready to go on my tourniquet. Also, they mentioned having this timestamp part. Don't have it hooked around, so it's just something you'd have to move. Go ahead and have it out of the way over to the side so that you won't have any problem getting your windlass in there. So really, this video is a little bit of a preamble to what I'm about to do. I have ordered some of those cheap knockoff Amazon tourniquets. I mean, I think I'm getting 3 for $14. And I'm going to get them in, and we're going to look at them. We're going to compare them to the Recon Medical. We're going to compare them to the North American Rescue, and we're just going to see how bad they are. At the very least, I think they'll be good for training. It's important to have a tourniquet that you use for training, so that you can get used to it, be able to use it quickly, get some your motor skills going where you just know what to do in the situation. But we're just going to see how bad they are, and I think that'll be interesting to do. Like I said, I'm not a professional, and you can find plenty of videos where a medical professional does take one of these cheap ones and just tears it to pieces. But I'm not going to try to tear it to pieces. I'm just going to use it and see how well it performs, being used as a tourniquet over and over and over. See what happens. So, I'm looking forward to that. Hey, thanks for watching.